Hey guys, what's going on, dudes? It is David here, and we are back with another video. Now, in this video, guys, we're going to be talking about a certain Atlanta Falcon NFL player. Now, when it comes to this Atlanta Falcons player that we're going to be talking about, I'm just predicting right now that he will be having his best season for the Falcons ever, even though it will be his third season as a Falcon player. But today's video, we're going to be talking about the rookie that is Calvin Ridley. Yes, the young wide receiver that came from Alabama. He was a 26th pick in the first round of the 2018 NFL draft. Actually, I did not even know this until I checked this out. He is from Fort Lauderdale. He went to Monarch High. I actually didn't know that. So that means he's from the same state as I am. I'm from Florida. And yes, his 2 seasons for the Falcons have been very, very decent. But what I'm seeing in what's going to be happening in this 2020 season, I'm going to really, really like. Because last season, he was supposed to have over 1,000 yards. But unfortunately, he did miss some games due to injury. And he only finished under 1,000 yards. But last season was supposed to be his best season for the Falcons so far. He's been a Falcon for 2 seasons now. In 2018, he had 821 yards, 10 touchdowns, 64 receptions, and he started 5 games out of the 16 games that he played. 2019, he had 866 yards, so he did add a couple yards than 2018. He had 7 touchdowns, less touchdowns. He had 1 less reception, 63 receptions, and he started 10 games out of 13 because that was due to injury. His rookie season, he didn't really play that much because he was a rookie and we had other wide receivers that we could deal with. Then we traded away Mohamed Sanu to the Patriots, and he became the number 2 wide receiver, so which means he played a lot more games, and he did get a couple more yards, but unfortunately he did get injury eventually during the season. Now, Calvin Ridley. Alabama seems to have produced a lot of good wide receivers because obviously you can name the most obvious one is Julio Jones. But then there's also Amari Cooper. And don't forget about this. Alabama just had 2 wide receivers go in the first round of this year's draft when it came to Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. And then they got another wide receiver, another 2 going next year in Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. So Alabama seemed to be producing a lot of good wide receivers. So there's going to be a lot of good competition from all the Alabama wide receivers. Julio Jones got drafted in 2011. Amari Cooper, I think, got drafted in 2015. Calvin Ridley got drafted in 2018. And now we have 2 first-rounders from Alabama getting drafted in 2020. And then we're going to have 2 first-rounders from Alabama getting drafted in the 2021 draft. Can you believe that? Within the space of 10 years, Alabama's going to have Julio Jones, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Calvin Ridley, and Amari Cooper all in the NFL. That's going to be very, very impressive. That's like 6 or 7 Alabama wide receivers. First rounders, too. First rounders. That's going to be in the NFL. That's going to be absolutely crazy to see. But now enough about the Alabama wide receiver. We're talking about one specific Alabama wide receiver. Like I said before, we're talking about Calvin Ridley. Now, does he fit in this Atlanta offense? Yes, he actually does, because Matt Ryan seems to be building a good relationship with Calvin Ridley, and of course Julio Jones, who went to Alabama, they probably have a very, very good relationship. Calvin Ridley wears the number 18 for the Falcons, Julio Jones wears the number 11 for the Falcons, and Matt Ryan wears the number 2 for the Falcons. And when it comes to this season, it seems like Calvin Ridley will probably have a lot to do because now he's going to be, like last season was his real first season as a number 2 wide receiver. This one is going to be his first official season, so he's going to have to work hard to prove that he can be a potential number 1 wide receiver because Julio Jones is 31 years of age. Julio Jones is not getting any younger, but I see Julio Jones going for another 3 or 4 seasons, and I'll be honest here. I think Julio Jones is going to retire as an Atlanta Falcon. Now, when Julio Jones does eventually retire, we're going to already have a potential replacement for Julio Jones in Calvin Ridley. And maybe Calvin Ridley can be as good as Julio Jones is right now because, in my honest opinion, Julio Jones is the best NFL wide receiver in the NFL. That's just my opinion. I think he's better than Michael Thomas, and I think he's better than DeAndre Hopkins because even though he doesn't get a lot of receptions, he gets a lot of yards, and he gets a decent amount of touchdowns. He's probably going to be, I'd say, probably top 5 in the all-time receiving yards by the time he's done. Hopefully, if he does get injured, I'm going to knock on some wood. So, hopefully he does not get injuries, and if he does not get injuries, I see Julio Jones finishing in top 5 of receiving yards, getting in the top 10 of touchdowns all time, getting top 10 in catches, probably top 8 in catches, because this man is just one of the best wide receivers. Now, when it comes to his replacement, that could be Calvin Ridley. It all depends down to how the Falcons play and down the injury. Now, I said the Falcons were going to have a very good season. That's going to be due down to receiving core. The Falcons have the third most expensive offensive receiving core. Offensive weapons, because I think number 1 is Dallas, actually, because they just recently paid Amari Cooper. They got Dak Prescott, who recently signed the franchise tag, and then they got Ezekiel Elliott, who got his money last year. Number 2, I actually think it's I want to say it's the Seahawks, but I'm not really sure. The Falcons were either number 2 or number 3. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure they were number 3. So, considering that Calvin Ridley still has at least 3 years left on his deal before we actually have to pay him, that means we're gonna get the best out of him within these 3 seasons. And within these 3 seasons, I really, really hope the Falcons can make another Super Bowl push. But it all depends on how we play. It all depends on how Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones play, because the third wide receiver for the Falcons is going to be Treadwell, and Calvin Ridley would not want somebody like Treadwell, even though he is a very decent, third receiver, slot receiver that's going to be for the Falcons. He doesn't really want to lose his position like that, because then he's probably not going to be looked at as a potential number 1, and I do honestly believe that Calvin Ridley is a potential number 1 for the Atlanta Falcons. I would very much like to see him replace Julio Jones when Julio Jones does eventually retire and become a Hall of Famer. So, yeah, like I said before, Calvin Ridley, he's probably going to have his best season due to him actually, being as official number 2, considering I think it was after 3 or 4 games that we traded Mohamed Sanu, and Calvin Ridley wasn't really starting much. That's also due down to why he didn't have that much yards. But now that Calvin Ridley is the out-and-out number 2 wide receiver for the Falcons, I expect him to at least get 1,000 yards or close to 1,000 yards, have at least 10 to 15 touchdowns, and get more than 63 receptions, more than he did last season. But that's all due down to if he doesn't get injured or if he plays really, really well. So yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching this video. Please do smash the like button. But anyway, guys, I will see you guys all tomorrow with another video. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, and I'll see you guys all later. Peace.